I am Ari, keeper of Embers. The fire teaches patience. It speaks and crackles, breathes with me, and refuses hurry. I stir the coals with a willow twig, and the sparks rise like red insects drifting toward the cave mouth, where the world tastes of salt and stone. Beyond, a gray sky hangs low, stitched with swallows. The wind brings the far-off smell of rain and something wilder, the iron tang of river rocks, the animal musk of a herd passing out of sight. Around me, the camp wakes in layers, a child's laugh, the slap of wet hides against a log, the hush of mortar stones grinding seeds. Our world is simple in its demands and complicated in its promises. We trade stories for berries, scars for trust, sweat for shelter. We give the firewood, and it gives us light. Balance is everything. Kael returns before noon. I know his step before I see him. His gait is quiet but certain, like a cat that learned long ago to move softer than hunger. He appears between the junipers with a strip of river glare across his shoulders, carrying the day on his skin. Wet, cold, proud. 2 fish hang from a cord at his side, silver as moons. A third glides in the sling of his other hand, heavy enough to pull his shoulder down and make the veins in his wrist stand like cords. He smiles when he finds me still at the coals. Ari, he says, tasting my name as if it were something to warm in his mouth first. Storm coming. I can smell it, I say, and he lifts his catch. The fire answers with a pop as if agreeing. You wrestled the river. The river won, he says, but it let me borrow these. We laugh the way people do, who have learned to make small victories into feasts. In that laughter there is room for breath, and in that breath there is room for the gaze that lingers too long. He glances at my hands, black with charcoal smudges, and I glance at the thin white scar on his jaw, a tired crescent that looks newly polished when he smiles. It is a language we speak with the care of those who know how easily words can startle. We say little and say much. We clean the fish by the river, and the smell of their bright metal blood pours into the water as swiftly as the rain begins. When the first cold drops strike my shoulders, Kael looks up, pupils widening. Clouds gather like animals testing the edge of camp. I lift the fish toward him, and he steps closer, not taking them yet, only adjusting the cord so his fingers brush my wrist. The touch is light, a hello spoken under his breath. Consent between us is like our fire, fed slowly, kept safely, coaxed into warmth. I nod, and he nods back, as if we have agreed to a plan without needing to name it. By dusk, the storm is a full-voiced thing, and the elders send us to the cave above the ridge with the children and the jars of fat, the canteens of boiled water, the baskets of dried roots. We climb the slope in a thread of bodies, each of us carrying a piece of what we must not lose. I cradle an ember in a clay bowl filled with ash. Kael walks behind me, guarding the line as if guarding a boundary that lives inside his chest. The cave greets us with old warmth, the kind left in rock by the hands of people long gone. I set the ember down and blow gently until the ash glows and the first blue ribbon of flame lifts itself and begins to dance. The children hush. The wind presses the cave mouth and the fire answers, brave in its smallness. Night folds over us. We listen to rain talk to the stone, and stone answer the rain. The elders murmur, counting food. 2 babies drowse against their mothers, heavy with milk and thunder. Kael returns from the entrance, hair beaded with water. He shakes it off at the edge of the light, and a scatter of drops leaps to the fire, hissing like playful insects. He settles near me, not too near, near enough to be a promise. You kept it alive, he says, nodding toward the flame. It kept me alive, I answer. Silence is not empty in our world. It is a woven blanket, a net for catching warmth. In that silence, I feel the pulse in my wrist and hear, beneath the thunder, the sound of his breathing. The cave smells of wet wool, smoke, and crushed sage. Somewhere a child laughs in sleep. The fire throws moving gold across Kael's cheekbones. His gaze turns thoughtful, distant, then returns to me as if moving across a river and finding the path back. Tomorrow, he says, when the water falls back into itself, we'll find what the storm throws onto the shore. Shells, roots, maybe honey washed from the hives. Honey, I say, and the word is a warm fruit in my mouth. He tilts his head. You like honey as much as I do. I like the way it sticks, I say, and he lowers his eyes, smiling, a slow comet crossing his face. The cave hears our quiet and decides to be kind. The storm steps back just enough to let the fire sound louder, to let our shared air carry more meaning. We sit with our knees almost touching. When the children drift deeper and the last elder's voice fades into sleep, he reaches for my hand. He does it plainly, as if handing me a knife or a cup, the same gravity, the same respect. I turn my palm to meet his. Our fingers find the places they have always been meant to rest. The world does not narrow. It widens, outward into rain and stone, inward into warmth and breath. I feel the map of scars on his knuckles, the stories of nettles and teeth and flint. He feels the charcoal on my skin, the soft places fire leaves when it takes the harsh ones away. He brings my hand to his lips and lays a kiss there like a small oath. I answer by letting my thumb trace the line of his jaw, stopping where the old scar lifts the skin like a moonrise.
No Heri.
No hunger that forgets its manners. Only the gentle, careful gift of nearness. We lean toward one another. The fire watches, polite. The cave breathes with us. When our mouths meet, it is not a conquest but a homecoming. A single, quiet yes shared between two travelers who have arrived at the same door from different paths. His lips are warm from the firelight, mine taste of smoke and river salt. The kiss deepens by degrees the way dusk becomes night. Unquestioned, natural, inevitable. My hand finds the back of his neck, his fingers, only then, only with my nod, slide to the slope of my shoulder and rest there, steady as a promise. We part to breathe, foreheads touching, the laughter in our throats soft and incredulous. The storm pauses to listen. When we draw each other close again, it is with the care of artisans touching new work. We move slowly, stop often, ask and answer without words. When the moment grows warmer and the cave seems to lean in, we let the world soften around us. The rest happens beyond the light, with the respect of privacy and the grace of consent. The fire keeps our secret. The night is generous. Morning arrives honey pale, surprised to find us still awake. We sit side by side, shoulders touching, watching the storm peel itself off the horizon. The children stir, an elder coughs, someone stretches and winces, and then laughs. Life returns in the ordinary ways that make the extraordinary possible. Kael nudges me with his knee. When the rain leaves gifts, he says, we'll go find them. We'll go, I answer, and the word we taste like something I have been hungry for without knowing it. As we stand, a patch of light reaches deep into the cave, finds an old wall, and wakes the shapes sleeping there. Hands, small, large, and in between, press themselves into the stone, a chorus of presence. Some long-gone child stood here and blew pigment around a spread palm and said I was. An elder painted a stag with antlers like a winter tree and said we are. Kael looks from the wall to me, and I to him, and the fire flickers like a smile. Outside, the river is already speaking a new language over the rocks. We gather our baskets and jars and step into the wet morning, leaving the cave warmer than we found it. On the ridge, the wind tastes of salt and something sweeter. When the storm left, it did not say goodbye. It only sighed across the hills and dragged its gray skirts through the valley, as if reluctant to let the world dry. I woke before the others, my skin still tasting of smoke and sleep. The fire had gentled itself to a red breath, pulsing slow, steady, like the heart of something alive but resting. Kael slept near the cave mouth, a shadow folded around his spear and dreams. His hair was tangled with moss and the scent of rain. For a while, I only watched the rise and fall of his chest, the way light began to find him first. Morning loves him more than the rest of us. I stirred the embers with a stick, coaxing them awake. Sparks leapt like startled birds, scattering tiny suns across the stone. The air was damp, thick with the promise of new green. From outside came the sound of dripping trees, water finding its way home again. We had survived the storm. That is no small thing. When the elders rose, they began their counting, baskets, hides, tools, food. Life resumes the moment fear ends. It doesn't ask for poetry, but fear leaves an aftertaste, like ash. The others spoke of broken shelters, lost traps, a bent spearhead. I listened and nodded, but my mind drifted toward the ridge, where I'd seen the river claw at its banks before the night swallowed everything. Kael must have felt it too. He caught my glance and nodded toward the entrance. "Come," he said softly. "Let's see what the storm has left us." We left before the elders could ask for help, walking through the wet hush of the morning. The world smelled reborn: mud, cedar, river salt. Every leaf trembled with drops, and the earth gave a low sigh under our feet. I carried the clay bowl that once held the ember. Empty now, but I couldn't leave it behind. It felt like carrying a heart that still remembered how to beat. We reached the river, where the bank curved inward. The water was high, but calm, swollen, breathing slower after its fury. On the gravel shore lay the gifts the storm had thrown: branches, roots, bones, smooth stones painted with silt. Kael crouched to study a fallen log. "The bees were here," he said. His voice always lowered when he spoke of living things, as if language itself could bruise them. I followed his gaze. A broken nest clung to the hollow, dripping golden threads of honey that caught the light like amber tears. A few bees circled above, dazed, uncertain of loss. "They'll forgive us," I murmured. "They know the fire feeds us too." He smiled at that. I took my flint blade and gently lifted a piece of comb, warm and fragrant. Honey slid over my fingers, thick, slow, like time forgetting to hurry. I placed it into the bowl, and Kael steadied the branch for me, his hand brushing mine. Just a moment, yet enough to wake the memory of last night. His breath close, the weight of silence between us, the softness that had needed no words. I almost dropped the honey. We ate some there on the shore, fingers sticky, lips sweet. He laughed when the bees returned, brave again, tasting us for theft. I pretended to shoo them away, but one landed on his shoulder and simply stayed. He didn't move. "It likes you," I said. "Then it must be lost," he answered. "No," I said. "It knows where warmth is." He didn't reply, but his eyes held mine longer than the sentence deserved. We walked upriver, collecting what the storm had spared: bark for kindling, roots for drying, stones for grinding. The air hummed with tiny life. Somewhere in the distance, a stag called once, then twice, and was gone. As we climbed the ridge, the clouds broke apart. Sunlight spilled over the valley in sheets of gold and white, and steam rose from the wet ground. For a moment, everything glittered as if covered in powdered fire. I stopped to watch, breath shallow. The world looked new, but older too, like a painting uncovered after centuries. Do you ever wonder, I asked, who walked here before us? Kael tilted his head. The ones who left the hands on the walls? I nodded. They burned fires like ours. They must have loved too. Or fought, he said. Maybe both, I whispered. Maybe that's how they remembered to stay alive. He looked at me then, really looked, the way you look at something that might disappear if you blink too soon. Maybe they're watching, he said. I smiled. Then let them see we are learning. By the time we returned, the camp buzzed again with noise, laughter, chores, the rhythm of survival. We shared the honey with the children, who squealed and licked their hands, faces golden and wild. Even the elders allowed a smile. That evening, after the food was gone and the sky had begun to purple, I went to the cave alone. I told the others I needed to tend the fire, but really I wanted to listen, not to the crackling wood, but to the silence between its breaths. Inside, the air was cooler. The flame bent low, whispering secrets to itself. I fed it a handful of bark and crouched close. In its trembling light, the shadows of the painted hands danced again, the ones I had seen that morning. Some large, some small, some fading into nothing. Ghosts of touch, frozen in ochre. I pressed my own palm against the stone, next to theirs. My skin felt alive, vibrating faintly. It's strange how a wall can hold the memory of warmth long after the body is gone. Do you speak to them? Kael's voice came from behind me, soft but certain. I hadn't heard him approach. Sometimes, I said. I ask them what they remember. And what do they say? That we are young. He stepped closer, slow enough for me to decide whether I'd move. I didn't. The firelight painted half his face gold, the other half shadow. His presence was like standing at the edge of something deep. Frightening, but beautiful in its pull. They were here before words, he said. Before stories. Maybe we're their story now, I whispered. He smiled, a small, tired smile that carried too much hope for one mouth. Then let's not end it badly. We stood there, close enough that I could feel his warmth without touching him. The air between us tightened, the way it does before a spark leaps from coal to kindling. My heart counted 2 loudly in my chest. Kael, I said softly, and didn't finish the sentence.
He didn't ask me to.
He reached up, fingers hesitating near my cheek, asking permission without words. I turned toward his hand, closing the space. His touch was gentle, a warmth that didn't try to own, only to know. No hunger this time, just quiet recognition. The world stopped insisting on motion. We stayed like that, 2 shapes breathing in rhythm with the fire, until the flame burned low again. I felt the echo of the storm still humming somewhere inside me, but it no longer frightened. It felt like promise. Later, when he left, I remained by the wall. I traced the outline of my hand again, now faintly dusted with ochre from the stones. It wasn't a painting yet, just a whisper of intention. But maybe one day, when someone else finds this place, they'll see it and know. We were here. We learned warmth. We remembered kindness. Outside, the moon climbed clean over the ridge, pale as bone. The bees had long gone back to their hive, rebuilding, forgiving. I breathed in the night and thought of Kael's eyes, steady, like the river after rain. The fire exhaled one last sigh before sleeping, and I whispered to it, "Tomorrow we gather. Tomorrow we learn what the storm left for us." And somewhere deep in the stone, maybe the old hands answered. It has been 12 suns since the storm. The valley has turned green again, fuller than before, as if rain were memory made visible. Every morning, mist crawls from the river and curls around the camp like a shy animal learning to trust us again. We have begun to count time by what grows. Sprouts where there were ashes, laughter where there was thunder. And yet, the world still carries that low hum, the reminder that nothing we build is ever truly safe. Today is the day of first harvest, the gathering of roots and berries, the tasting of what the land allows. It is the one day our fire burns higher than fear. The elders say it honors the spirits of the ground. I think it honors our need to believe the earth still loves us. The morning is all color. Children run with painted faces, hands red from berries. The women twist strands of grass into reeds, weaving flowers and feathers until everything smells of summer. The men prepare the drums, stretched hide over hollow wood, deep as heartbeat. Kael sharpens his spear in the shade of the birch. His shoulders move slow, sure, a rhythm I've begun to know without thinking. Every stroke of the flint against stone sings a single note of patience. He doesn't look at me, but he doesn't have to. The space between us hums with the memory of warmth we haven't yet dared to name aloud. By midday, the feast begins. Berries mashed into clay bowls, roasted fish glistening with honey, roots split open to reveal their pale hearts. Smoke rises from the central pit, carrying the scent of salt and fruit through the air. Elder Maine, whose hair is the color of snowed ash, steps forward and lifts both hands. Fire and fruit, she says, what grows above and what burns below. Both must feed us, both must forgive us. We echo her words. The drums begin. The rhythm starts low, one beat, then two, then faster, until it finds the same pulse that runs under our skin. I feel the ground answer. The trees tremble. Bodies begin to move. Not in dance, not yet, but in surrender to sound. Kael joins the circle of hunters. Their feet stamp the dust into patterns older than language. He looks like the storm sun, raw, certain alive. I stand by the fire with the bowl of embers, feeding it dry bark. My heart keeps time with the drums, out of sync but honest. Then I see her.
Lira.
Younger than me, quick as a fox, eyes like polished stone. She's from the upper ridge, quiet most days, but bold when the music starts. She moves toward Kael, laughing, her wrists glittering with river shells. He laughs too. Of course he does. It's innocent. It must be. And yet my breath shortens. My hands tighten around the bowl. The fire flickers, sensing what I won't say aloud. When the rhythm breaks into dance, Lyra spins. The shells at her wrists catch the sun and throw it everywhere. Kael catches her hand mid-turn, steadying, not claiming, but the sight still burns. I tell myself I have no right to feel what I feel. We are not bound. We have not spoken the old vows. We shared warmth, not promise. But the heart is a poor student of reason. When Lyra's laughter spills too close to him, I turn away and feed the fire again. Too much wood, too fast, it spits in protest. Elder Maine glances at me once, knowing, but says nothing. The drums fade. The feast winds down. The air grows thick with dusk. Children sleep against their mothers. The men talk of tomorrow's hunt. Kael walks to the river, alone this time. I follow a distance behind, the clay bowl in my hands again. An excuse, perhaps, but excuses are just softer names for truth. The river glows with moonlight. Kael crouches at the edge, washing the paint from his hands. The current tugs it away in red ribbons. You left before the songs ended, he says without turning. So did you. He nods, still watching the water. Too many eyes. Too much noise. And Lyra? I ask before I can stop myself. The question lands sharp and small, like flint breaking. He looks over his shoulder then. Not angry, just tired, maybe. She dances with everyone, he says simply. You know that. I know, I whisper. But she looked at you as if she'd known you in another life. He stands, brushing his hands dry on his tunic. And what if she had? The river speaks between us, low and steady. I realize I don't fear her. I fear how easily the world could forget us. One storm, one winter, and we'd be the ones fading on cave walls. I lift the bowl. I brought this. For light. He steps closer, his face half lit by the embers' glow. You don't need to carry the fire everywhere, Ari. Yes, I do, I say. It's how I remember who I am. He studies me a long time, then reaches out, not to touch, but to shield the ember from wind. The gesture is enough to undo me. You think I didn't see you watching, he says softly. I swallow. I think you saw everything. He exhales a quiet, human sound that says more than words could. I don't belong to Lyra. And do you belong to anyone? I ask. He hesitates. Then, not yet. The ember flares in the bowl, as if agreeing. We stand side by side, silent but unalone. The night smells of wet grass and crushed mint. The fire's reflection dances on the water, thin as memory. When I finally meet his eyes, there's something there. Not hunger, not even desire. Something steadier. Something that could become both. He takes a step closer, but not enough to break the air between us. Tomorrow, he says, the hunters go upriver. Tracks were found after the storm. I'll be gone 3 nights. I nod, though the word gone stings. Then I'll keep the fire for you. His smile is small, but real. You always do. He leaves before I can answer, disappearing into the whisper of reeds. I stay by the river until the ember cools to ash. When I finally return to the cave, I find the handprints on the wall glowing faintly in the moonlight, as if the old ones are awake, watching, waiting to see what we will do next. I press my palm against the stone again and whisper to the silence. Keep him safe. The rock holds my warmth and gives nothing back. Outside, an owl calls once, the sound of a question without an answer. The nights are longer when Kael is gone. The fire burns obediently, but it does not speak to me the way it used to. Its crackle sounds distant, foreign, as if it misses his hands too. The others sleep in clusters near the cave walls. I stay by the flames, listening to every shift of wind for a step that never comes. 3 nights, he said. This is the 5th. The hunters returned at dusk, their faces carved with silence. No Kael among them. They said they found no tracks after the crossing. The river had swallowed the trail, and the forest north of it is too dense for torches. Elder Main placed a hand on my shoulder. Sometimes the earth keeps what it lends, she said gently. But I am not ready to believe her. When darkness falls, I feed the fire one last branch, then take my ember bowl. If the river swallowed his trail, I will follow the river itself. The night breathes like an animal, slow, cautious. Mist clings to my ankles as I walk. The path slopes down toward the water, glinting with the pale bones of moonlight. My feet sink in wet earth, frogs scatter. An owl lifts away in soundless protest. Every few steps, I whisper his name. Not loud enough to wake the spirits, but enough to remind the world that he is still mine to call. The river answers and murmurs, endless, shifting. Sometimes it sounds like my name instead. I reach the bend where we last spoke. The sand still holds the faint trace of 2 footprints, his and mine, half erased by rain. I crouch there, tracing the hollow where his heel pressed, feeling the echo of his weight. It's foolish, I know, but the heart will take any evidence of presence it can find. The water moves faster here, a wide silver sheet under the moon. Foam gathers in corners, carrying leaves and bits of bark. Small offerings from the forest. I kneel and dip my fingers into the current. It's colder than I expect. The cold climbs through me, a clean, startling truth. He is gone, somewhere beyond this voice of water. I whisper, "Kael, the fire waits." The wind shifts, and for a moment, I swear I hear a reply, a low sound from across the river. Not quite a word, but not the river either. A heartbeat, maybe, or memory playing tricks. I light a small torch from the ember bowl. Its glow dances weakly against the mist, painting the trees on the far bank in gold and shadow. Then something glimmers there, metal, wet stone, eyes. I freeze. The shape moves, slow, deliberate. Human. Kael. My voice cracks on the name. No answer. Only the river's endless whisper. I follow the bank downstream, keeping the torch low. My feet find their own path through roots and reeds. After a while, I see it again, the flicker of movement across the water. Someone walking parallel to me, always just behind the veil of mist. Too far to see clearly, too close to ignore. "Who are you?" I call. The echo comes back distorted. "Who you?" Then silence. I grip the torch tighter. My mind races with every story the elders ever told. River spirits that take the form of those we love. Hunters who forget their names and walk forever along the current. The ones who answer when they shouldn't. But I keep walking. The moon climbs higher, thinning the mist. The river narrows around a cluster of boulders. On one of them, I see a mark, a dark streak, drying fast. I kneel to touch it. It smears red on my fingertips.
Blood.
My throat closes. The world tilts. But beside it, pressed into the mud, I find something else. A carving, rough but deliberate. A spiral with 3 lines crossing its center. Kael's sign, the one he cuts into his arrows. He was here, recently. The relief hits harder than fear. I crouch there, whispering his name again, softer this time. "I found you, or at least the echo of you." The torch sputters in the wind. I cup it, but the flame dies anyway. Darkness folds around me, thick and absolute. Then I hear it, a new sound beneath the river's voice. A low hum, human in shape.
Singing.
Not words, just a tune, old and tired, coming from farther downstream. I follow it. The ground slickens under my feet, roots grab at my ankles. The melody rises and falls like breathing. I know that tune. Kael used to hum it while cleaning fish by the fire. The rhythm of patience. "Kael." I shout again, louder now. The song stops. For a heartbeat, there is nothing, just the hiss of water and my own pulse. Then, Ari? Faint, broken, real. I run. The river curves again, revealing a narrow sandbar lit by moonlight. He stands there, or tries to. His tunic is torn, arm pressed to his side, blood dark against the fabric. He looks thinner, slower, but the same. The same eyes, the same steady calm even now. When he sees me, he laughs once, soft, disbelieving. "You always find me." "I had help," I say, breathless. The fire told me where to look. He sinks to his knees, half laughing, half wincing. "I thought I'd see you again only in dreams." I kneel beside him, touching his shoulder. "Dreams don't bleed." He shakes his head.
Boar.
"Came out of the reeds. I killed it, but..." His voice fades under a wave of pain. "Don't talk," I whisper. "Save it for later." I tear a strip from my cloak and press it to his wound. The blood seeps through fast, but it slows with each breath. He closes his eyes, leaning into my touch. The warmth of him is still there, weaker, but stubborn. "You shouldn't have come alone," he says. "I never am," I answer, nodding toward the ember bowl. "The fire came too." He smiles, the faintest flicker. "Then maybe we'll both live through this." I help him up, one arm around my shoulder. Together we wade into the river. The current pushes, hungry, but we push harder. By the time we reach the far bank, both of us are shaking. We collapse onto the sand, gasping. The ember bowl miraculously survives, still faintly glowing. I set it between us, shielding it from the wind. For a while, neither of us speaks. The river keeps talking, endless, soothing, like a mother calming frightened children. Finally, he whispers, "Do you hear it? The river?" He nods. Voices. It speaks if you listen long enough. I tilt my head. At first, only noise, but then beneath it, patterns. A rise and fall like words half-formed. Not human, not spirit, but something between. "What does it say?" I ask. He smiles weakly. "That we don't belong to the storm anymore." We sit there until the sky begins to pale. The first birds wake. The mist begins to thin. His breathing steadies, slow but certain. The wound will need the elder's herbs, but he will live. When I stand, he catches my hand. "Ari," he says, "if I hadn't made it—" "Don't," I interrupt. "You did." He nods, eyes closing again. "Then promise me one thing." "What?" "If the river ever calls me again, don't follow." I squeeze his hand. "You know I won't keep that promise." He laughs once low. "I know." The sun rises behind us, setting the water on fire. The voices fade. And in the warmth of that first light, I realize the truth. The river never wanted to take him. It wanted to remind us how to listen. The moon came early that season, low, red, swollen with light. Elder Main said it was an omen of return, but she did not say what would return. The fire trembled that night, unsure whether to believe her. Kael healed slowly. The wound on his side closed, though the scar stayed restless beneath the skin. He refused to let the others see him limp. The river took my strength, he'd say with a grin, and gave it back half-while. He didn't hunt after that. Instead, he carved antlers, bone, driftwood, anything the storm had left behind. Sometimes I'd find him at dusk, sitting near the edge of camp, shaping silence into figures with his knife. A wolf's head, a bird mid-flight. Once, a flame so small and perfect it seemed alive. When I asked what it meant, he said, "To remember what can be made from what almost killed you." A messenger came at dawn 2 days before the full moon. Another clan, the Stone Ridge people, had sent word. They would come to trade meat for salt, bone for flint, stories for peace. It had been seasons since our last meeting, and not all of them had ended gently. "Be ready," Elder Main told me. "Their fire burns colder than ours." She meant, be careful with your warmth. We spent the day preparing. The women wove reed mats and hung strings of feathers by the cave mouth. The men repaired the drums. Kael, still half-healed, shaped 2 antlers into a circle bound by leather strips. "A gift," he said, "for those who remember that not every enemy stays one." He placed it in my hands. "Bring this when the moon is highest," he said. "And if the fire grows too loud, keep it between us." When the Stone Ridge clan arrived, the world seemed to hold its breath. They came in a slow line of shadows against the dusk, 20, maybe more. Faces marked with ash and white clay, the smell of riverweed and smoke clinging to their hides. Their leader was a woman called Saret. She wore a mantle of antlers, heavy and elegant, and eyes like cooled metal. I'd heard stories that she once stopped a bear with only a spear and a word. Looking at her, I almost believed it. Our people bowed. She did not. But when Eldermane stepped forward with a bowl of salt and pressed it into her palms, Saret nodded once.
"We remember," she said.
A fragile piece flickered to life. The ritual began under the antler moon, named for the time when stags shed what no longer serves them. We gathered around the central fire, ours and theirs, joined by smoke and song. The drums started low, like heartbeats learning to trust again. Saret's people danced first, sharp, precise, every step a strike, every breath a defense. Then it was our turn. Eldermane looked at me. "Firekeeper," she said. "Remind them that light is not weakness." So I stepped forward, the ember bowl in my hands, and let the rhythm carry me. I moved slowly at first, circles, gestures, breaths. The fire bent and rose with me. When I spun, sparks followed. When I paused, silence bowed. I felt Kael watching from the shadows, the way flame feels watched by wind, not threatened, but seen.
Then Saret joined me.
She moved like stone, remembering it could flow. We circled each other, two halves of something the earth was still deciding whether to bless or break. When the drum stopped, we stood face to face. The fire roared between us. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Saret reached up, removed the smallest antler from her mantle, and placed it into my palm. "Your fire listens," she said. "Ours only speaks. Perhaps it should learn." The crowd exhaled as if released from a spell. Peace, fragile, shimmering, had chosen, at least for tonight, to stay. Later, when the others sang and feasted, I found Kael at the edge of the clearing, watching the moon rise higher. He looked proud but distant, as if something in him had gone quiet. "You didn't join the dance," I said.
He shook his head.
"You didn't need me there." "That's not the same as not wanting you." He smiled faintly. "When I saw you with Saret, I thought, that's what the old stories mean when they speak of light they can't name." I laughed, uneasy. "And what does the river think of poetry now?" He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "It thinks it's dangerous." The silence that followed was long enough to taste. The fire from the camp flickered on the water, doubling the moonlight. For the first time, I wondered if warmth could burn in more ways than one. As the feast quieted, Saret approached. She carried a skin of honey mead and the half-circle of antlers Kael had carved. "From your hunter," she said, offering it to me. He gave it as a sign of peace. And perhaps of something else. "What something else?" I asked. She smiled, not cruel, but knowing. "Whatever the fire decides." Before I could answer, she lifted her hand toward the sky. "The antler moon will fall before dawn," she said. "When it does, we go north. You'll follow the river again soon, firekeeper. It has not finished speaking to you." Then she turned and vanished into the mist with her people, leaving only the faint scent of smoke and iron. When I returned to the cave, the fire had died down to a soft breath. I placed the antler circle beside it. The shadows it cast looked like hands reaching for one another, but never touching. Kael sat near the wall, sharpening his knife in the dark. "Saret spoke to you," he said without looking up. "She gave me your gift," I replied. "And a warning." He nodded. "She gives both the same way, as debts." "What debt do we owe her?" "The one we haven't yet named," he said. I watched the blade catch the firelight. It looked like a star learning to fall. Outside, the first wind of winter crawled through the trees. I whispered, "The moon is setting." Kael stopped his work, looked toward the cave mouth, and said quietly, "Then something is about to change." The fire hissed once, a sound like agreement. Somewhere beyond the ridge, a horn echoed. Low, distant, unfamiliar. I looked to Kael. He was already on his feet, knife in hand, listening. The sound came again, closer this time. Not a song, a call. Whatever peace the antler moon had brought, it would not last till morning. The horn sounded twice that night, once for warning, once for loss. By morning, the Stone Ridge clan was gone, vanished into the forest like breath on cold air. In their place, we found smoke rising from the northern ridge. Not attack, not yet, but a message in fire. Stay away. Elder Maine said we would honor the sign. Kael said we could not trust it. I said nothing because I was listening, not to them, but to the sound beneath their voices. The wind had changed. It no longer carried the scent of summer. Winter was coming early. We began to rebuild the camp closer to the cave, gathering what roots and hides remained. The river had shrunk to a slow mirror, thick with the weight of cold. The birds flew lower. The bees disappeared. The children no longer played after dusk. The light died too quickly. Kael moved slower now, his scar stiff in the cold, but his eyes stayed sharp. When others rested, he walked the perimeter, tracing invisible lines in the frost. Boundaries, he said. If peace breaks, we'll need them. I wanted to ask who we were drawing them for, the Stone Ridge or ourselves. Inside the cave, the fire became my whole world. I fed it small sticks of birch and whisper-thin bark until it glowed like a heart held too tightly. Its warmth carried the memory of Kael's hands. Its voice carried mine when no one else was near. Some nights he sat beside me, saying little. The silence between us had grown deeper, like a river in winter, still on the surface, alive beneath. One night, as frost crept down from the mouth of the cave, he spoke. "Ari," he said, "you remember what Sarah told you? That the river hadn't finished speaking?" He nodded. "I think I heard it again last night." "What did it say?" He hesitated. "That not all fires survive the same winter." The flame between us snapped, scattering sparks like startled birds. "Then we'll feed it more wood," I said, forcing a smile. Kael's gaze stayed on the fire. That's not what it meant. The next morning, the first snow fell, thin, hesitant flakes, uncertain whether they belonged here. The children laughed, trying to catch them. The elders didn't. By midday, the laughter stopped. A small group returned from hunting with empty hands and hollow eyes.
No tracks, they said. No herds.
The forest had gone silent. Elder Maine gathered us near the hearth. "If this cold holds," she said, "we share warmth before food. Hunger takes longer to kill than frost." That night, the fire felt smaller, as if it knew we were counting its breaths. Kael stayed awake with me, mending spears by the light. His hands were steady, but his jaw was set too hard. "When the herds move south," he said, "the Stone Ridge follow. We might have to go too." "The fire can travel," I said. "I can carry it." He looked at me then, really looked. "You'd leave the cave?" "If that's where warmth must live, yes." He was silent a long time before he whispered, "Then before we move, we make a promise." He took one of his carvings, a wolf made of antler, polished smooth, and set it beside the fire. Then he pressed his hand to the ground between us. "This hearth has seen what storms cannot take," he said. "If the cold or the river or the Stone Ridge come again, they can have everything else, but not this." I understood. He was not speaking to me as hunter or man, but as someone who had learned what it means to lose and still remain. So I placed my own hand beside his, palm to earth, flame to skin. "Then I keep this hearth, even if the fire dies."
He smiled, faintly.
And I keep you, even if I forget my own name. The air around us tightened, as if the cave itself was listening. The fire leaned toward us, its light trembling. It was not a vow of love, not in the way songs tell it, but something older, quieter, carved from mead and trust. We did not touch beyond that. We didn't need to. The hearth had taken our words and made them binding. Days passed. The snow deepened. The world grew still. One evening, Kael returned from the ridge with his jaw clenched and eyes unreadable.
Tracks, he said.
Not animal. Not ours. My stomach turned to stone. Stone Ridge. He nodded. 3 at least. Watching. Elder Main ordered the fire moved deeper into the cave, shielded from sight. The light dimmed. The air thickened. Fear has its own scent, sour, metallic, familiar. That night, I barely slept. I kept my ear to the ground, feeling for footsteps. None came. Only the groan of trees under snow, the breath of sleeping children, the slow pulse of the hearth. Sometime before dawn, Kael's hand found mine. If something happens, he murmured, go before the fire does. I promised the opposite. He smiled, eyes half closed. You always do. At sunrise, the horn sounded again once, twice, then silence. We rushed to the cave mouth, hearts pounding. No warriors, no flames, only the forest, quiet and pale beneath the snow. Then we saw it, smoke rising from the southern trees. Not black, not red.
White.
A signal, a meeting call. Kael met my eyes. They want to talk. Elder Main frowned. Or, to draw us out. I looked at the hearth, its small flame stubborn against the cold. Then we go together, I said. But we bring the fire. Main hesitated, then nodded. The firekeeper leads. Kael took up his spear, still limping, and fell in beside me. As we stepped into the snow, I carried the ember bowl close to my chest, its glow hidden under furs. The wind howled across the ridge, carrying the scent of pine and danger. The white smoke twisted higher, beckoning. Kael leaned close enough for me to feel his breath. Whatever happens, he said, don't let them see you afraid.
I'm not elite.
He smiled, small, soft, real. That's why you'll survive this. We walked toward the signal, the fire between us, and the frozen world ahead. Behind us, the cave waited, hearth silent, promise burning. The world has stopped moving. The snow fell for 6 days without pause, sealing the valley in silence. The river is no longer a river, only a long white scar where water once spoke. The trees bow under the weight of ice, and every sound feels borrowed. Even the fire has learned to whisper. We no longer count time by the sun, only by how often the flame needs feeding. If it sleeps too long, we die. If it eats too much, we starve. I wake before the others to tend it. The cave air is cold enough to bite. The children breathe clouds. Every ember feels like a pulse under my hands, fragile, sacred, mortal. I talk to it softly, like a friend on the edge of leaving. Stay, I whisper. We're not finished yet. Sometimes I imagine the fire whispering back. Kael hasn't left the cave in 3 days. His wound reopened when he carried wood from the ridge, and now fever sits behind his eyes like an uninvited guest. I crush herbs in a stone bowl, mix them with melted snow, and press the mixture to his skin. He doesn't protest, but the tremor in his hands betrays him. Rest, I tell him. You can't feed the fire alone, he murmurs. I have before. Not this kind of cold. He's right. This winter feels older than the world, like it remembers a time when warmth was only a rumor. But I can't let him see that truth, not while his breath still steams in the air. You taught me to carve patience, I say. Now let me use it. He smiles faintly. Then carve me, firekeeper. Keep me from freezing. The days blend together. Elder Main falls ill. Two of the hunters leave to find the stone ridge, hoping for food or mercy.
They don't return. The children stop laughing.
The fire eats faster. Our voices grow smaller. It's the kind of cold that makes even memory brittle. One night, I wake to the sound of Kael coughing, harsh, wet, endless. I crawl to his side and find his skin burning hot. The herbs are gone, the snow melted, the last root used. I press my palm to his chest. His heart flutters weakly beneath it. Stay, I whisper, as I did to the fire. We're not finished yet. His eyes flicker open, dazed but still searching. You talk to everything that burns. Because everything that burns wants to leave, I say. He exhales, a sound between a laugh and a sigh. Then I'll stay, if only to prove you wrong. You promise? His hand finds mine, dry, trembling, but alive. I promise nothing to the cold, he murmurs. Only to you. That night, I pull my furs closer and lie beside him. Not for desire, but for heat. His body trembles against mine, the way a branch trembles when it can't decide whether to break or bloom. I match my breathing to his, slow and steady, until the rhythm feels shared. The cave smells of smoke and snow and something human, the scent of life refusing to end. I feel his pulse under my fingertips, uneven but stubborn. He moves closer, eyes half shut. Your hands, he murmurs, they're warm. They remember the fire. He smiles faintly. Then I'll remember you. I rest my forehead against his.
The world outside ceases to exist.
Only warmth remains, small, imperfect, but real. The kind that doesn't ask for more than presence. When he drifts into sleep, I stay awake, feeding the fire in small handfuls. Each spark feels like a heartbeat borrowed from my own. By morning, the fever breaks. He wakes slowly, eyes clearer, breath steadier. You kept it alive, he says. The fire or you? I ask. Both. I laugh softly. The sound strange in this frozen place. Don't give me too much credit. I'm only giving you truth. Outside, the first sunlight in days spills across the cave mouth, thin, silver, almost shy. The snow hasn't melted, but it softens, glittering like dust from some gentler world. I drag the ember bowl closer to the entrance, letting it taste the light. Kael joins me, still pale, still limping. The fire likes the sun, he says. It remembers it. He nods, then looks out toward the endless white. The hunters won't return. I swallow. Then we'll go when the ice thins.
He studies me.
You'd follow the river again? I'd follow what's left of warmth. That evening, Elder Main calls me to her side. Her voice is weak, almost threadbare. When the thaw comes, she whispers, you'll lead them. The young ones. Kael will help. I'm no leader, I protest. You're keeper, she says. And keepers always lead, even when they don't mean to. Her eyes close soon after. The cave falls silent except for the fire's quiet breath. Kael takes my hand, not to comfort, but to steady. She was right, he says. You carry more than flame. I want to answer, but words feel too fragile for truth. Instead, I turn his hand over and press it to my chest. Then promise me something, I whisper. When the thaw comes, we go together. He looks at me as if memorizing my face for a future he doesn't yet trust. I promise. That night, We share no words, only warmth. His hand in mine, the sound of snow falling outside like slow applause, the fire flickering between wake and sleep. It's not love as the stories tell it. It's quieter, hungrier, more sacred. The kind that exists only when everything else has been taken away. When I finally close my eyes, I dream of the river, thawed, alive, singing, and of hands, painted on stone, reaching forward, as if to pull us through the ice into spring. The thaw came quietly, as if ashamed of its delay. One morning, the snow began to sigh, melting not in rivers, but in slow, secret threads that slipped between stones. By dusk, the icicles above the cave were dripping like the ticking of a patient clock. We had survived the long night. The first sound of spring was not birdsong, but water. The river found its voice again, low and uncertain, testing each syllable before speaking it aloud. I sat by the cave mouth, watching it gather strength, the same way a child learns to walk after fever. Kael joined me, still limping, though his eyes had regained that restless light I'd missed through the winter. He carried one of his carvings, a small bird, wings half open. He placed it beside me without a word. "It's not finished," he said. "Neither are we," I answered. He smiled at that, quiet, almost shy, and for the first time in moons, it felt like the world was listening again. The others began to stir with the warmth. The children ran without shivering. The elders stepped outside to feel sunlight on their faces like something they'd almost forgotten existed. We rebuilt the hearth outside the cave, the first open fire since autumn. Its smoke rose straight into the pale sky, carrying our breath with it. Elder Main's place near the stones stayed empty, but not silent. Her voice lingered in everything that burned. Kael knelt beside me as I coaxed the flame higher. "She'd be proud," he said. I nodded. "She'd also tell me not to waste good wood on ceremony." He laughed, the sound rough from disuse but alive. "Then we'll call it gratitude, not ceremony." The fire crackled, approval, maybe. When the first evening of true warmth came, we gathered by the riverbank. The ice had broken into silver shards drifting downstream, each one catching the last light of the sun. Kael brought the antler circle he'd once carved for peace, now cracked in two, but still beautiful. He held it over the water. "It broke during the storm," he said. "Maybe it's meant to. Or maybe it's waiting to be joined again," I said. He looked at me, then at the river. "If we stay here, the spring will feed us. But if we follow the thaw south, we might find the others. New ground, new fire. What do you want?" He was silent for a long time. Then, softly, "To follow what keeps moving." I looked down at my hands, blackened with ash. "Then I'll carry the hearth." He smiled, but I saw the question in his eyes. Not doubt, but wonder. Could the keeper of fire ever wander? That night, as the sky turned the color of warm honey, we lit the new hearth, smaller than the one in the cave, but free. The children danced around it, their laughter mixed with the hum of the river. When the others slept, Kael and I stayed by the fading coals. The air smelled of thawing earth and wild mint. He looked toward the horizon. "Do you hear it?" he asked. "The river?"
No.
The world starting again. I closed my eyes. Beneath the rustle of leaves and the hiss of melting snow, I could hear it, a rhythm, soft and steady, like a heartbeat under the soil. "It sounds like the fire," I said. "Maybe it's all the same thing," he whispered. "Fire, river, blood, time." We sat in silence, the kind that feels like a language you've almost forgotten, but still understand. Before dawn, I rose to feed the last ember. The sky was pale gray, waiting to become gold. I took the clay bowl, the same one that had carried our flame through storm and snow and filled it with a single glowing coal.
Kael woke as I did.
"You're taking it?" he asked. "Always." He nodded, pulling on his cloak. "Then let's see what waits beyond the ridge." I looked back at the cave one last time. The handprints on the wall caught the first light, glowing faintly, not ghosts, not warnings, but witnesses. I pressed my palm against the stone beside them. This time, I left my mark, red ochre from the fire's edge smeared into the shape of my hand. Not a farewell, a reminder. "We were here," I whispered, "and we stayed warm." Kael stood beside me, watching. Then he took my free hand, and together we stepped into the new light. The first dawn after winter is never quiet. The river sings. The wind scatters the ashes of old fires into the air. And somewhere between breath and promise, the world begins again. The firekeeper walks south, and the story keeps burning.